keen, hang around for that. All right, so what happened in this game, man?
This was the one I typed to you. It was a advance warning of a all-in.
So the kind of troll guy, right? He's kind of playing some mind games or something, doing something weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get too thrown off by weirdos that do stuff like that. It can happen. We'll see what happens in this one. Let's fast forward. So straight off the bat, before we get into anything else, we want to work on your fundamental replay analysis skills while we go, right? So I want you to just watch your opening here, and I want you to tell me what you could do slightly better, slightly worse. I don't have anything in mind what it is going to be. I'm just going to let you focus on that, and I'm going to put on 2x speed just for the opening. I might slow it down at some points, but just walk me through your opening. Talk me through what's happening and what could be better.
Okay. I'm going standard hatch gas pool.
Yep.
This is where he starts to get a bit cheeky. Okay, I feel like the opener was okay. I've got the hatch gas pool out, 3 drones on gas. Building an overlord, maybe a little bit early.
Yeah, what supply do you normally build the overlord on?
19.
Yeah.
With this build.
So definitely just a bit of a mistake there. Could have squeezed these drones out. And you're also sitting on that lava as well, right?
Yeah.
Any idea what you think caused that this game? Was it maybe the chat?
Right there, it was the chat, yeah.
Yeah. So this is where we work on your fundamentals of not letting someone get inside your head. So the moment someone types to you in game, anything other than good luck, have fun, we need to train into you the cynicism of a true StarCraft veteran. What runs through my brain whenever someone types to me in chat is, where's the proxy? What douchebaggery is this guy trying to do? Does he have my stream open? Or is he map hacking? Or all of the above? So there's like this like inbuilt paranoia, you know? Like, look at this guy. He's like trying to tell you what to do and stuff. Like, I find like I get super serious. I just knuckle down. I just like don't respond. Or I will type a few meaningless words to them because I enjoy that sometimes. Like, people will ask me something and he wants you to think about the answer to those questions, right? He wants you to think about it. So my response will always be like, he'll say, are you making your evolution chamber yet? I'll say walnut or antelope. I'll just like choose a random word that I can just type out, and I'll just like send that and then just keep playing. Because the number one way cheeses work and aggression works is it throws you off your game, out of your comfort zone. And he's doing the vanilla version of the from maneuver, which Gemini was telling me about earlier today, which is right when you're about to go in with your rush, you type from ? So just as the other person hits enter and starts typing, your dudes run in and you cheese the shit out of them while they can't micro because they've got their chat box open. So he's doing kind of the vanilla version of that, where he's like, yeah, let's hope you screw your build up a little bit. And if I get you to screw it up enough, you know, this build's definitely going to work. And this is a really, really sharp, just one base cyclone all in he's going for. So already looking back at this, we can see a couple things, right? In terms of your efficiency in the early game, let's go right back. So let's go over what you think you could have done a little bit better with your normal build order here. And just rehash what we've already talked about and then talk about what happens next.
So I should have waited to build the Overlord until 19 supply. And I sat on this larva. I'm floating around 200 more minerals than I should be. Still waiting for the spawning pool to come. Then when it does, I build a queen, but the second hatch, it wasn't too late, but a little bit late. And I'm not building the Zerglings immediately. What else?
Yep. And this is all good stuff, you know, just getting used to looking at all these little details is really good. It's a great way to kind of just find all of that stuff. And in terms of your build, you know, he's continuing trying to distract you. You're kind of starting to drone up again. There's always your opening refinement. Let's look for another minute. I'll turn up the speed. Keep analyzing your macro here. Keep going.
Yeah, right here I wasn't sure. I'd started. Oh yeah, Zergling speed's almost done. I've made the baning nest. Right here I'm kind of wondering if I should be taking a third.
So this is where there's a lot of indecision, right? You're not sure what you should be doing, and you can hear this in your analysis as well, right? Because you're not sure what the situation is. So that points us to the other thing. There's two things you should always want to look at, right? At the start, it was just it's your normal opening, normal things are happening. Yet you forgot you kind of did your overlord too early and didn't build those drones, right? So let me walk you through how I see this opening. So I see it that way, same as what you said. Picked up on the same things. You weren't quite building things. There's two things you look at. How efficient was I with doing my build, my standard build order? That's what you look for, number one, against cheese. And the other one is, did I know what was going on? And how could I have done something differently as a standard thing in all of my games that would help me be ready for this in future? You know, how could I spot this? How could I be aware of this? And if you look at this game, you didn't know it was coming, right? You had no vision this whole game. So you were playing completely blind. So at this point, what we've got to say is really, and this is something high-level players have the easiest time with. It's harder if you're not super high-level because you don't have as clear a game plan, but it's this idea of, why are we building a baneling nest right now? Do we always build a baneling nest right now? You know, why are we starting to build extra Zerglings off such a low drone count? And the answer is, this guy freaked you out, man. He got in your head. So what you want to focus on in these situations is only react to things that you know. Same way with someone psyching you out or shit-talking you, or they cheese you one game and you play them again and you think the same thing's coming, is you always want to react to things that you know are happening in a game of StarCraft. You never want to react to something which you kind of imagine is happening, right? And someone could type to you, I've got a battle cruiser 1 minute into the game, and you know it's not real. But if he says he's cyclone rushing you, and you're just kind of like, is it real? Isn't it real? You always should just assume anything they say has no bearing on the game, and you should just continue on your normal path. And with your normal Zerg vs Terran game plan, you wouldn't be building a spore crawler at 3 minutes. You wouldn't be building a baneling nest at 3 minutes. You'd just be droning up right now, and you'd be scouting. You'd have map control, right? You'd be checking what's going on the other side of the map. So you kind of pulled into your own shell this game, and you forgot about what the opponent... checking what the opponent is doing, you're thinking about what the opponent could be doing. So try to always rely on facts, and this is why we always put that focus on map control. So let's write this down as a sort of structure in the notes while we do this. So you've just lost to a cheese. What do you do? And here's our thing. So we're going to open up the replay. Open the replay. First thing. What's the first thing we look at? Did I do my build?
The opener?
Yeah. Did I do my opener and build properly? And just generally, what can I improve? It might be you forgot one drone. That's not going to lose you the game usually, but it's still something where you're like, I know something simple I can do to make my play better every single game. And it's make sure I remember that drone. This gives you something to work on, right? Always the easiest thing is look at your opening, look at your build and say, did I do it well? The other thing is, how can I recognize this in future? What does it look like? Or, what scouting tells? Did I have map control? That sort of stuff. Basically, were you prepared? Did you have the information ahead of time? Now, back to the first point. Did you do your opener and build properly? What can I improve? Very early on, you've deviated from the build in all sorts of ways. Ignoring the scouting and knowing what's going on side, you just look at it and say, wait a second, you're going overlord speed, lair, you're kind of getting a third, but you haven't really droned yet. You're not doing your normal build by any means. So I want you to right now, we're going to kind of freeze up a little bit, look at the document rather than the game, and just kind of go, okay, what would your normal game plan be? And let's write out a little dot point of what your opening should be. Zerg vs Terran opening, what your opening should be. So hatch gas pool, I'm writing the first few points for you. Hatch gas pool, you get the standard opening, you're going to build 6 slings for safety. You're going to start ling speed. Do you normally pull off gas after you've got 100 gas? Or do you just leave them minor?
Both is fine. Not normally. I think usually in Zerg vs Terran I don't. I go for a baneling nest. so I leave them in.
Okay. So do you normally go for the third base first or the baneling nest first? Which kind of order do you prefer to go in?
Usually the baneling, then the third.
Okay. So you're normally going for a baneling nest, and do you have a marker for when that baneling nest goes down, or you just kind of drop it?
My marker usually is before 3:30, like right around 3:30, when I would ordinarily build a roach warren or something else.
Okay.
I have just to have some tech in the early game.
And you know what? You should have 44 supply at 3 minutes 30. About 44, 45 supply, somewhere around there. So I've written there 44/3 minutes 30. And what we're doing here is something which you can always do and is the most important thing. So remember what you've come to me today saying, you know, yes, there's some cheesy builds that are killing me, but most importantly, I want to be reacting to things better and scouting a bit better. And this is something right through to Diamond League. People are always asking me for help with. Everyone always wants to react better. But in order to react better, you need to have the solid trunk of what you're doing clear in your head first and quite well refined. Build is a tree trunk. The reactions are the branches. You can't work on the reactions and the scouting without having a solid trunk first. So just by going through and actually ironing out these details and writing them down right now in this Google Drive document that we're working on, we're starting to give you a better idea of your normal game plan so that you can figure out when and where to deviate from it. So we're going to go baneling nest around 45, and then we're going to go for a third base, I guess, soon after that as well. So I'm going to say baneling nest into third base. So it's basically around the same time, but you get the baneling nest first. And that's something you're comfortable with, and that's fine. That's totally all right. And you know what? I think up to that point is all we really need to focus on in terms of your build order. This guy went a lot of cyclones. Oh my god. So let's go back now and let's talk about scouting and reactions. And once again, I want you to take over. You've got the reins. From the moment these 6 slings come out, tell me what you should be doing and be really detailed with exactly where you should have vision and what you should have vision, what you should have giving you that vision, what units you're using to spot where.
Well, looking at it now, what I ask myself is like, why didn't I send the banelings or the lings somewhere? Oh, first of all, like they're sitting there, and I think I'm trying to massively pump out drones or something. Oh, but I should have sent, especially once Ling Speed finished up, I should have sent them to the other side of the map to his potential second and third bases. Oh, and then something I've been wondering about and heard various things about, should I be sending the Overlord into his base? And I generally am thinking around 4 minutes, that's when I want to see what he's got there. Because usually these all-in pushes are going to hit, you know, between 4:30 and 6 minutes in.
Yeah.
I need to see if he's taken a second.
These are very good questions, and they're exactly what you need to be asking. Let's go back to when your second Overlord very first pops out, nice and early in the game, about 30-40 seconds in. Let's see, here we go. Okay, so your second Overlord has been sitting at your natural in your games, because you're worried about bunker rushes and things like this. It's very important to cue that on from when the hatchery is about halfway done, because at that point, you'll still see anything coming in. So your Overlord, let's check when he moves on. Your second, yeah, it's almost finished. That's a pretty good time. However, your second Overlord should go directly to the sacrifice location. What we're going to notice here is your Overlord is kind of going south. You see, if you go to everyone's camera, your Overlord's kind of coming down here. Whereas that Overlord should be beelining to the sacrifice location, or he's not going to get there in time to scout. So that Overlord should always be going directly to about here. And then once you hit 4 minutes, he's just arrived and you go, yeah, go straight into that base. And you can go through and check what's up. So you should always be sacrificing that Overlord every single game. Whoops. Sacrifice position. So we want to say second Overlord straight into your sacrifice position right after that. And there we go. So right after, once your natural's half done, basically.
Now, why sacrifice the Overlord rather than build Overlord speed?
Overlord speed costs more than sacrificing it. You got to invest in it earlier. So 100 minerals and 100 gas is a lot more than just 100 minerals. It's basically 200 worth of resources, and you've got to upgrade that a minute before, because it takes a minute to kick in, right? So opportunity cost is really big because of the way economy works in StarCraft. The more you invest into your economy earlier, the bigger it builds, the more you can reinvest. It's the same as having a retirement fund or any sort of investment, right? The bigger it gets earlier, the longer that money has time to grow into more money. So it's the same with, if you invest in Overlord speed, it's a bit more expensive. You can do it and it gives you 100% vision, but it's always going to be more expensive than just losing one Overlord. So just one Overlord is the cheaper option, and that's going to be something I much prefer you do. In the games you're losing at the moment, your Overlord sacrifice isn't even important yet. And the reason is, you're more important scouting. That's actually more important for you maybe when you're 100 or 200 ladder games from where you are now, maybe 300 ladder games. Where you are now, it's more important to simply check the base count. So while we want to work that as a habit now, we want to set you up with the right habits. What's the more important thing is your first Overlord. Your first Overlord needs to check their natural. And you're going to find on most maps, there's some nifty bits of high ground. So on this map, but right there, you see that pillar with the little up and down raising green and black trophy platform thing?
Yeah.
Yep. He can't see you if you hold position in Overlord on there. So unless he has a flying unit. So you put your first Overlord there, you're going to see anything that comes out of his base. So what I would do at the very start of the game is when that Overlord comes over every game, I will have this Overlord queued up to move to, say, a little bit closer so I can spot if there's a command center or not, and then to move back to that piece of high ground. And you'll find on most maps in the current map pool, there's a handy piece of high ground. Often it's even closer to their natural than this one. And it will see everything that's going on in their expansion. It'll see when they move out with attacks, when they move out with units, and that's going to be just amazing for you. If that doesn't happen, it gets sniped down for some reason, that's fine, because you also have Zerglings providing vision of, has he expanded? Is he on one base? Is he on, is he pushing out with a big attack? What's the attack consist of? All of those questions. All right. So we're setting up some really good habits for the early game here. Now, not only Overlords, what else can we do? Oops. Lings. So
yeah, they should have been spread out.
If he has a Reaper that harasses you, you're busy at home, right? A lot of the time that'll happen. A Reaper comes, you got to, skirmish with him a little bit. Your Lings can't really just go across the map. But as soon as you get your Overlord should already be verifying if he's expanded or not. And you can see, even with where your Overlord went this game, you could have moved it south the tiniest bit, and you would have seen he was on one base. So what we're going to build here is a scouting, check, and reaction into your play. So how are you going to scout for one base all-ins? You're going to have the 3-minute check. 3 minutes. Do they have an expansion? No? If not, what are you going to do? Let's go to 3 minutes. How many drones have you got? This game, you don't have as many drones as you should. But how about we say, if you're up against a one-base guy, what are you going to do? You're going to sit a Ling behind his expansion in case he takes it just a little bit later. Sometimes you're playing people that just do weird stuff, or they float the command center down from the low ground. So that's your insurance, so you can double check. So you're not just massing units for 5 minutes saying, where's the all-in? Then you scout again and, oh, he's actually expanded just later than I thought. So you sit a Ling behind his expansion, but what are you going to do? 3 minutes 30 onwards. Non-stop unit production. You can build some Spore Crawlers in case he's got Banshees or something like that, DTs. And you basically just focus on massing units. You just don't drone anymore. Because if he's on one base, and by 3 minutes 30, you should be at 1.5 to 2 bases saturation, you're going to be way ahead. So all you need to do is build lots of units, not die, and you should be really far ahead and win the game, right?
So should I still be sacrificing the Overlord?
Absolutely. I think keep scouting is really important.
Right about when? Is 4 minutes a good time to do that, or should it be earlier?
I think 4 minutes is still fine, because it's not too important. You're going to see what he pushes out with when he comes with an attack. You still want to try and see what's going on. Poking with Zerglings at the front is a great way to do that. Sacrificing an Overlord's a great way. You're not always going to see what's happening, and you don't need to see what's happening. This is the real art of scouting in StarCraft, is it's not about seeing what's happening. It's about being able to choose a reaction which stops X, Y, and Z. Because what you're thinking about is economy. So you're not thinking about what units are coming out of his base. That's this big black scary thing, right? If we look at it from your vision, we have no idea what's going on in there. It could be anything. It could be Banshees. It could be anything. But you have a generic response that works against pretty much everything that comes out. And that is make a whole bunch of Zerglings. And in this case, you got a Baneling nest, so Banelings. Maybe you build a Spine Crawler at the front. Maybe you build a couple Queens. You put a Spore down in each base. And the idea is, you keep scouting to try and check what's going on. And the moment you sniff out what's going on, you can make a more tailored response, right? Because you've got a bigger economy. So if you're on 1.5 bases, he's on 1 base, you're ahead by half a base, you can afford to counter what he's got, even if it's not perfect. If he comes with 1 base Hellbat, Banelings and Zerglings aren't the best against that, but you should have so many Zerglings and Banelings that you can overwhelm him. So always think about the idea in defending in StarCraft and playing sort of economic play is I want to progress forward. And I just want to keep macroing, expanding, and building workers. Doesn't matter what your race is, that's what you're trying to do. But the moment you spot your opponent stopping all economy and just doing something like, in this case, it's 1 base, you need to stop at a healthy lead. So a bit of a lead ahead of them, not too far ahead. And then you just build a lot of fighting things so that they can't kill you off that. And this is the real heart of counterplay. If you scout someone who never takes a 3rd base, you should only build about 7 or 8 drones on your 3rd, maybe 10 drones. So a small lead, but not too much of a lead. And then you pump lots of units off that lead. If you stop his push, you've still got that lead behind it. So you're ahead, you're way ahead, right? So that's really the sort of thinking that you want to be getting into a lot more here. So as we see that attack, we think about it in terms of being ahead, being behind, and how you invest in your economy. Let's go back to 3 minutes. And what we notice in this game is really important. So thinking about opportunity cost and where you're spending, you build a lot of defense. And a lot of defense is what makes us feel safe a lot of the time. But that can actually get you killed against an all-in. And this is something which actually hurts people's brains. It hurt my brain when I was first thinking about it. Because remember, if someone attacks you, you want to build the units at the right time. If you build them 5 minutes ahead of time, if you put down your spawning pool as your very first structure without building a single drone, and you mass Zerglings, if someone attacks you at 5 minutes with Stim Marines and Siege Tanks, they're going to kill you. Doesn't matter how many Zerglings you have, because you were building off such a tiny economy, you don't have any upgrades, your units kind of suck, right? So it's very important for you to not invest in your defense too early. At this stage of the game, your opponent was still building his infrastructure and his economy up. He was getting the factory, he was getting the armory, he's going for the upgrade. But you're actually investing in a lot of Zerglings, Baneling Nest, a lair, and you'll notice that your economy is actually less than his. So at this point, you didn't have that lead that we wanted to have. And what ends up happening is you steadily drone only after he does. So bring up your income tab, press I, and you're going to notice that his income is either equal or higher than yours, depending on whether or not he's got a mule mining. And you're only going to overtake him a little bit later. So check this out. He's slightly ahead there, but then he drops a mule. He's a bit ahead. It's very close, very back and forth. If you look at that income, you really don't have any sort of solid lead. And if you look at the worker count, you can see why. You're pretty much tied neck and neck with workers on him. So when he pushes, he has more stuff than you. He's got 45 army supply. You've only got 21. He has more supply overall. So even though you've got more workers, you've only just built those workers. So they haven't had a chance to actually mine their own cost in resources and then give you more bonus on top of that for you to turn into fighting units. So basically, he actually macroed harder than you at the start of this game because you were very worried because he was doing that silly mind game and getting in your head. So we really want to think about this just in terms of, I prepared too early because I didn't know what was going on. You know, you started building units before 3 minutes, about 3 minutes. You built a big round of Zerglings. So if you had instead built straight up to 40 drones or even 43 drones at the start of the game, that would still be a lot of drones. That's about 2 bases fully saturated. If he's on 1 base, what do you think is a healthy drone lead off the top of your head? Where do you think is a good drone lead? How many workers on your natural?
About 10 to 12.
Cool. And how many gases would you have in total?
I'd probably have 1 gas.
So if you have 1 gas, keep in mind your bases aren't like fully saturated. So you could afford to do something like 2 mineral lines, right? Because if you've got 2 full mineral lines, 16 drones apiece and 1 gas, that's still only 35 drones. That's not a super large economy. And if he's on 1 base and he's taken both gases, which indeed he has, he's up here at 30 workers, right? So you actually go into 35 workers, 2 bases on minerals, 1 on gas. That would be a really healthy lead. You could maybe even take a 2nd gas or a few drones on the 3rd. And you could probably get away with that quite fine. But it's good that you're already estimating pretty well here. You've just got to remember to keep in mind those gases. A lot of the time, the aggressive player is going to have more gas than you, unless he's like doing something like proxy barracks or just speedlings or just zealots or something like that. He's usually going to have like higher tech units. So it's actually important for you to have a pretty decent mineral lead if he's ahead of you, getting better quality units. So yeah, anywhere about 40 drones, 35 drones, 2 mineral lines, 1 or 2 gases would have been a great place for you to stop. But you should have raced up there. And if you think about it, we go back here, go back to the 3-minute mark. If you didn't build that overlord too early, you would have had 2 drones early on mining. By the time that 5-minute 30 attack comes, they would have mined triple, 4 times, 5 times their own worth. That would be an extra couple hundred minerals for you. So already that little thing early on with him distracting you, we know that would help us out. And then we can also say, hey, if we didn't build this round of Zerglings, if you just kind of went to yourself, drones, you weren't building spore crawlers so early. And then about, what we're going to say is not 33 to 3 minutes 30 before I said build units. How about we say 45 supply is when you want to build a lot of units normally for defense against a 1 base all-in. So it allows you to get up to 2 or 3 queens, 35 to 40 drones. That's about 45 supply with a couple Zerglings out, right? And if you mass units from there, it ensures that you have a really healthy drone count. And you could have had that up before 4 minutes this game if you focused on droning a little bit more. So let's write that down in your Docker. 45 supply. Onward, stop unit production. Spore in each base. Sorry, stop drone. Yeah, non-stop unit production. Spore in each base. And you'd be in a great position. Cool. So I think that's most of what we can get from this replay in terms of analyzing. So it's about how can you scout what's going on. In this case, it's literally just about see that he doesn't have an expansion, build a buttload of units. Of course, you should have Zerglings on the watchtowers as well. You know, Ling on each watchtower. You should have a Ling outside his base to see when he moves out. You should have all this vision. No reason not to, because he doesn't contest the map at all. And that would also give you more warning, right? Even if your scouting failed, he denied it with a Marine. Even if he blocked all of your vision, if you see him move out, you could be like, oh, mass cyclone. Now, off the top of your head, how do you deal with mass cyclone? I'm guessing it's something you haven't dealt with much before? Well,
not a whole lot, honestly. Yeah. I mean, I usually have Lings and Banes for early game defense. But they don't seem to work very well. Maybe Queens, Roaches.
Well, if you look at the Cyclone's attack, you'll actually see they do bonus to Armored, about 50% more damage. So Roaches are actually not the answer at all. Ling Bane is absolutely it. You just need to have enough units. So you don't want to read into what happened with the units here. Remember, you were down at 1/3 of his army supply. You could have had Broodlords and he would have beaten you. Doesn't matter what tech you had, he would have beaten you here, right? With those numbers. So you don't want to read into these battles. You want to make sure you always look at the numbers of the army supply before you read into that. Lings are amazing versus this. Banelings are really good versus Marines. They're good versus the SCVs. They're not terrible against Cyclones if they can hit them when they're clumped up, but mostly just Zerglings, Queens, having enough of them would beat this army. Zerglings are the #1 unit against them. Just because they don't take bonus damage. The Cyclones take about 10, 12, 13 shots to actually kill a Zergling. About 9 shots with +1. Still takes a long time to kill a Zergling, and for the same cost of a Cyclone, you can build about 8 or 10 Zerglings easily. So let's hop out of that replay. A lot of the time, you'll find it's just numbers matters more than the unit composition. Might be an exception. If someone builds 26 Hellbats and you've only got Zerglings, you're probably not going to have a good time, right? There are exceptions, but most of the time, it comes back to the numbers. So if we want to very quickly look in your document and we want to think about what are we looking at before everything else, the pillars of StarCraft. I'm just going to... Do you mind me showing the document to the stream just briefly?
Not at all.
All right, just so they can follow along with us, because there's the pillars, and this is kind of how you read what's going on, right? The pillars of StarCraft. So, economy, army. Those are the two main ones. There's little things like upgrades and tech as well. So we'll also put upgrades and tech as well as another one. For the most part, though, economy, army. How much economy do I build versus how much army do I build is 90% of your decision making. And you always want to try and avoid the fancy graphics. You want to avoid thinking about the units, and you always want to think about this first and then think about the units afterwards. So yeah, always try to think about it that way. If we think about the economy, he's attacking me with a 30 SCV all in. Don't think about it as he hit me with Cyclones and Banshees. Think of it as he hit me off 25 SCVs. Therefore, I should have stopped at 35 drones and built defense. And then afterwards, you want to add on, well, it was Banshees, so I should have made sure I built extra Queens. Or, you know, it was Hellions, I wanted to add Roaches in. Add in that after. But if you just focus on where to stop your economy and build units, you will become so much better at stopping these all-ins. There's so many things going on in a game of StarCraft. It's not always so much about, like, let's focus on every detail. It's like, let's just focus on the biggest detail, because otherwise you get overwhelmed by everything that's going on. And this is why pro gamers sometimes say the dumbest things when you ask them questions, because there's areas of the game they just ignore. Like, they just don't think about it because they're like, nah, that's not as important as thinking about this other area of the game. And it's this bizarre thing that happens where they get really good at zoning out the stuff that isn't the most important thing. Myself included, back when I was competing a lot more. If we could have someone in chat volunteer to cheese, who's around Gold League, who's a Terran, Zerg, or Protoss, preferably Terran or Protoss, please do put your hand up. Hop into chat channel Pig on the European server. I don't know if anyone, maybe there's some Americans who are willing to hop on EU who don't have bad lag there. Please let me know. But for now, let's hop in another one of those replays. So invite us into another one. And this time I want you to use that let's compare the economy. So do you have another all-in replay besides a cannon rush? I know you had a cannon rush.
Let's see, what did I have?
Cannon rushes are a bit special. So with cannon rushes, it's not so much about the economy as much as the technical stuff. But yeah.
I'm not sure this is a all-in, but it was a push, and I died to it.
That's cool. Any sort of push, we can apply the same theory, even if it's 2 base or 3 base. Let's take a look.
Here we go, making you... Oh,
Thank
you've
you.
already host.
Yeah, for people in chat, if you guys are willing to hop on the EU server, if you guys can play there, please do hop into chat channel Pig, and we'll be ready to play with you guys in about probably 10 minutes. Are you happy to go into that after this replay? Or I guess we'll watch the Cannon Rush replay as well quickly, and then hop into a live game. What do you reckon, mate? Do you have a set kind of priority in terms of what you want to go through, or are you happy for me to just take the reins?
No, you can take the reins. I mean, I think like the Cannon Rush was a little bit wonky. It was a bit more than I was expecting.
Cannon Rushes can be a bit overwhelming. They take a while to get used to.
There were two since our last session, and one I felt like I responded correctly, but it was kind of more of a normal, like, medium commit one. But with the second one, it was like double gas steel into pylons and cannons everywhere, and I was like, what? And like going for the double gas steel I thought was weird, and I wasn't thinking of Cannon Rush at that point. But
cool, we'll definitely check out that weird one, then that'll be great. So once again,
okay, so here
talk us through your
I am doing the standard hatch gas pool. I think I'm a little bit late on the Overlord. Oh, and I was chasing a SCV that was hanging out in my base. I'm sending out a drone for some reason to start a very early third, and I don't remember why. I think it was I was floating some minerals or something. But I think that third is way too early.
Yeah, it's a little earlier than you normally do it, right? And whenever it's a deviation from the norm, yeah, you always want to be like, wait, why did I do that?
And looking at that, I don't remember why. I think I was floating minerals because I had been distracted by the worker. Anyway,
You probably
I started.
if we go, why don't we go back and look at it actually? This is something
Right.
which happens. You kind of forget how much minerals you bank up right before your queen starts. You see how you had a lot of money there, right? And you forgot what that money is for. So keep in mind, and I've done this before, where I've just been a little bit off, or I've been distracted, and I've gone, wait, why do I have 400 minerals in the bank? But that's for 2 queens and 4 zerglings to start. And that's the exact right amount of money for that. And because you spent it on that, you couldn't afford the queens. So that's a big mistake there in terms of, you know, just really deviating, because this is going to throw off all your normal things. So in this sort of game, normally we'll see a lot more mistakes in terms of your normal build-up from what I'd normally see, because you've already thrown yourself into a very different position. Keep talking us through how it plays from here. Keep criticizing that macro. Show me what you see.
Okay. I'm starting to drone on the seconds. I'm building a set of zerglings right now. I've started the queen on the first base, no queen on the second. Oh, and I've got enough minerals for it now. I should have started that. Floating 300, 400 minerals. Oh, starting the second queen. But I should have more drones by now. I've got 19 in the first mineral line, 2 on the second, and the third is almost finishing up. I should be making more overlords now. And instead I'm making zerglings. I've got a bunch of zerglings sitting out front, and they haven't moved out yet. I'm moving some over to the third base, but not sending them around the map.
Yep.
My overlord can see he's got a second base, and this is at 4 minutes. Let's see, can I see? Yeah, I can see he's got the second base. I think I saw some Marines just a second ago, but I haven't moved either. I've got one overlord sitting outside his natural, one a bit away from sacrifice position, and I should be sending that in, but I'm not. I will say though that I often have not up until now. Like I've been hesitant. Should I sacrifice? Should I not? If I'm gonna sacrifice, what should I be planning for that in my overlord production, stuff like that.
Can you ping me just while we're talking about overlord vision? This is good analysis, by the way, so far. Where would you sit that first overlord after what we talked about last game? Can you ping where you would probably want to sit that first overlord?
How do you ping?
Alt G. Alt G and click on the minimap. Alt G, left click.
Is that? Trying to remember what that is on.
Oh, Apple G or Function G on Mac?
Function, there we go.
Okay, so that should be where your second overlord goes for the sacrifice, right? Up there. Because your first overlord wants to go outside the natural to the high ground, remember? And remember, like I said, there's usually that pervert spot where you can see everything. So can you figure out where the pervert spot is on this map? We've got to give things memorable names to make sure we remember them.
Yeah. On this one, I'm not sure, honestly. I think there's this bunch of rocks over here.
Yeah, ping it.
Oh, is that pinging?
No, you pinged the first time up in the north. Remember, it's just Function G and then left click on the minimap. Or on the screen, either way, actually. It doesn't even need to be on the minimap. Is it this
Trying
one?
to do that. Function G. Yeah, I'm looking like south of the natural. There's a
Yeah.
rock overhang. For
Yeah,
some
the one
reason
that's
it's
right
spawning-
next to the destructible rock tower.
Yeah.
Yep. That's perfect. Yeah, that's a piece of high ground. So he can't see up there. I'm like 98% sure. You know, I haven't played too much on this map, to be fair. So occasionally I will give a piece of wrong advice, but I'm pretty sure you're safe up there. So this piece of rock will be great. Your overlord should be sitting there. He'll see everything. Whereas at the back of the natural, yeah, it was nice that he went there, but he doesn't really see anything for you. And it was actually a Zergling which spotted his expansion building. So same as what we talked about before. You've got to get in this habit of first overlord gets on that high ground, second overlord sacrifices, and that's cool. So let's go back now and rewind. You pointed out you weren't really droning. You took your third too early. What you've really got to identify when you are very strict. You've got to be very strict on yourself when you identify these mistakes. You'd be like, I will not deviate from the build order again. I will not do that. Because when you identify, wait a second, I just took a third hatch. I feel like it's a big part of why your build was very off. And even though you end up droning up quite hard here, look at when this push comes. Are you ahead or behind in economy right now?
Let's see, I'm ahead.
Mm-hmm. What about army?
And army, I'm behind.
Okay. So overall, it's a pretty even game at this point. You're a little ahead in supply. If you're given a bit more time to let that economy work, you'll definitely be ahead. But you're definitely not in the most amazing spot. And in terms of your army, right? You know, you've got 23 Lings and 14 Banes, which, hey, if you actually got on top of this push a bit earlier before the tank siege, maybe you could have just cleaned the whole thing up. And that would have been great, and you'd be running away with the game. But we could have been infinitely ahead from where you are at this point, 7 minutes into the game. And this is something you always want to be striving for. You want to be fighting yourself. You want to be pushing yourself, not fighting yourself, pushing yourself to try to really macro better. And you pointed it out earlier. You were spot on with the analysis. So let me just drive home what you were saying for the most part, but let's really focus on it. Queen at the natural never began for the longest time because of that third hatch you just got thrown off, right? You build a couple Zerglings, but you do send one across the map, which is nice. But I also would like you to always leave one outside the natural. So wouldn't it be great if you just sent another Zergling to sit, bam, outside his base? That would be great. Other than that, you build a ton of Zerglings. And remember our rule from the last game. Only at 45 supply do we build extra units, do we mass units, and that's against a one base all-in. If we're playing against a non-one base all-in, we definitely should not be building Zerglings from about 30 supply, which is what you did this game. You built a lot of Zerglings from here on 30 supply. So at only 24 drones, you built a ton of Zerglings. Now also, once again, you built a Spore Crawler. So remember, Spore Crawlers you do not need at all. If you want to build spores for safety, super important to build them a lot later than this, because every spore you build is 2.5 drones that you've killed, because it costs a drone and a half to build a spore, and it chews up a drone that actually disappears into it. Spore crawlers are very expensive, especially the earlier you build them. If you build 3 spore crawlers, one at each base, when you're at 60 drones, it's a little tiny dent, little scratch in your economy. If you build 2 or 3 spores at 20 drones or 25 drones, it's a big percentage of your economy. And it just comes back to that whole investment analogy of the more economy you've got working for you earlier, it builds into more economy, which you can invest in more different things. So, yeah. So these spore crawlers, you want to set a timing in your head. And this is where I come in and say, I know, because I've been playing this game for 50 bajillion games. And we can say, what's a good spore crawler timing? If you want safety spores, 5 minutes at each base. Now, when does that deviate? What if he's doing one base and he's rushing Banshees or he's rushing Dark Templar? So if there's no expansion versus one base, off the top of your head, when do you think? It'd obviously be earlier. How much earlier? When do you think you should drop those spores if he's on one base to get the detection up in time?
About 4 minutes.
Cool. I think let's say 3:45. Technically, they could probably get stuff to you slightly earlier than then. You know what? Let's say 4 minutes. And you're only allowed to change that if you actually get cheese before then. Most pros won't get you before then. So I very much doubt you'll run into anyone hitting you with detection or air units before then. So let's say 4 minutes. for now.
I mean, I've seen like usually it's just if they proxy a Stargate or
Yeah.
something like that happens.
And even in that case, it's not the end of the world, because if you're building those spores every game for safety, it actually costs you more. There's like a funny little calculation that I always tell people where the first run by of an Oracle could kill 9 drones, and that's actually better than losing 5 drones, but having to build 3 spore crawlers, because you're building the spore crawlers 30 seconds before it arrives, at least, for them to be ready in time. And think about the calculation with the spores. Each spore is 2.5 drones. So assuming you had enough lava, if you just put that money into drones, 3 spore crawlers is actually 7.5 drones. So there's this weird thing where the earlier you build spores, the worse it is, right? So we just try to always push them as late as possible. So I think that's a good rule for you for now. Once you get going, it's like you hit your comfort zone a little bit more and you start spending your money a little bit better, and doing these things kind of okay. But I feel like you don't have that comfort until you have this ball of Ling Bane. And this comes back to you not being confident versus all-ins, dying to them. And even though we've talked about kind of being a bit more efficient, focusing on your macro in previous sessions, I feel like you keep dying to all-ins, it makes you paranoid, and you go back to playing overly safe and building lots of units and not having eyes on the map. You know, you're playing against the trauma rather than what's actually happening in the game here. In this game, he's kind of macroed up quite a bit. He had absolutely no threat of attacking you for a long time, yet right on 3 minutes you were pumping out Zerglings and Banelings. So what do we want to do to get rid of this? We want to hop out of this replay. We want to see if we can grab someone who's hopped into the channel here on Battle.net. I'm hoping we've got someone. Doesn't look like we got anyone in here. Hi, Cracks. Is that a diamond logo on Cracks? I think it is. Helps out in a custom. And that's okay. We can use a diamond player as long as he's willing to take instructions. Willing to help.
I actually have to go before too long. I think we're out of our usual time.
We are running short. We started a few minutes late, so I think we've got about 8 minutes left. Let me check.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got 8 minutes left from when our call started, so we could definitely run through one really quickly here.
Okay.
And this is so make me the party leader. I'm gonna host it up real quick. Okay. What race are you? Zerg? If he's Zerg, I'm gonna make him off race. Make me the party leader, and just right click my name in the top right. And here's Zerg. Okay. Play. Make sure you make me the party leader. Right click on my name in the top right.
Are you talking to me or to
Yeah,
Cracks?
to you. You're the party leader.
All right.
Yeah. Sorry, man. I was like, is my mic not working? And then I was like, oh, right, you think I'm talking to him? I'm just sorry. Because I was reading out what I was typing to him because I do that like a weirdo.
All right.
Yeah. So, okay, simple scenario. We're doing your build. Now you're playing against him. He's Protoss. Doesn't matter who you're playing against. You're going to do your standard game plan, what you do every single game. Except we are going to do something very simple. Same as in against Terran. Our first Overlord will check his natural expansion and then sit on the high ground. And this is going to be really good because that's going to tell us what's going on. So just do your normal thing here at the start. But that first Overlord, yeah, go to that high ground there. Perfect. Beautiful. So go back to droning, building an Overlord at home, all that good stuff that you need to do. Focus on your build order. And this will be very nice. Get that Overlord going. Got to start that second Ovi.
Shoot, I think my hotkeys are disabled.
Oh, okay.
Hang on.
That's okay.
Cool.
Game paused.
Go figure out what's going on with that. We can restart. Thank you guys for hanging. We're about to play a bit of StarCraft Remastered. I appreciate everyone who's hung around.
Real quick.
Did
It'll
I
only
eat
take
too
a
many?
second.
I only ate nuts by the fistful,
I had
Sean.
not enabled my camera hotkeys.
Ah, okay, no worries,
I'm
man. We're
using
going to
that.
very quickly restart, and that's fine. Do you need to, like, run the moment we're done, or are you okay to stay, like, 3 or 4 or 5 more minutes?
I'm fine. Yeah.
That's fine, then. 5 more minutes. I really want to run through this because, you know, there's a lot about knowing the theory is great. I can explain all the theory in the world, but just having a little bit of actual muscle memory of putting the most basic stuff, which will help you into practice, is very important. So hop out of that game. Okay. For some reason, it's made you the leader again. That's fine. I'll host up. Here we go. All right. So your hotkeys should be working now, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't the hotkeys. It was the camera hotkeys, and that threw me off. I was like, ah.
No
Okay.
worries, man. Should be good now. I got Crex coming in here now. He should be in a second. I'll put him up. Yeah, so once again, just send your Overlord to that high ground, and we should be good. Other than that, focus on your build. So just be really quick. Remember, as soon as the game starts, build a drone, get your Overlord, just click it down towards his natural. You can adjust its path later, and just focus on your build order. Good shit, man. Good luck, good luck.
All right.
So guys, we're practicing him here against a one base all in because he keeps dying to one base all ins and freaking out and then changing how he's playing and getting very paranoid and afraid. And I've just explained in as much detail as I think I possibly can from as many angles and as many fundamentals as to why he shouldn't be doing that. But it doesn't mean that he's not just going to hop on ladder and it's all going to go out the window because of adrenaline and excitement, all that crazy stuff we feel when we're playing. So what I really want to focus on him here is saying, hey, he doesn't have an expansion at 3 minutes. 45 supply, let's mass units. Keep massing units while trying to scout and figure what's going on. Oh, here's some gateway units. Kill them. Congrats, you held your first one base all in. You have graduated. You have graduated to the next league of StarCraft. And this is going to be so huge, guys, because there's certain things he can do better. He just doesn't have the confidence to do them better. He's like freaking himself out with not knowing what to do in situations. So this is why we've got to move past this this barrier. Thank you, Alron Anderson. Dude, Brood War is an amazing game. I because there was big news today, I didn't play any of it at my normal time of a few hours ago, and because we had this coaching schedule. But as soon as this coaching's done, which is in like 3 or 4 minutes, I guess 5 minutes, I'll let this game finish. It's going to be a 6-minute game. I will be hopping into StarCraft Remastered just for probably about 1 hour, but I really want to squeeze some games in because I have been loving the game. I never played Brood War, but I've been playing StarCraft 2 as an obsession and as my entire life for the last like 7 years. And yeah, I love it. It's great. I'm really happy there's new people constantly coming in and playing the game. It's just a really cool community, fun game. And it's something you can always improve at and have fun with. So thank you guys for hanging out. Sorry I've been ignoring you. Coaching gets pretty... I want to give the best service with coaching. A big thanks to IO System before with that sub. I know I shouted it out in chat, but I just wanted to say it quickly here in person as well. So thank you very much, everyone who's new to the stream, everyone who's clicked that follow button, all the guys who came in from In Control stream as well. I know a lot of them have left now because they're like, this is not Brood War. Different game. Only rule to do with SC2 and Brood War in chat is don't just shit on the other game. You guys are allowed to say, I like this part of this game better. I like this part of that game better. That's fine. Just don't start fights over it and don't just say random inflammatory crap. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Appreciate the support. Let's get back into this coaching. Doing a good job here. Just keep on droning up and following that macro. And remember... At 3 minutes, you're going to check that natural with that Overlord, and you're going to say, does he have an expansion or not? But for now, just focus on your macro, keep injecting, getting this this macro underway. You got to get those injects going, and you're doing really well. Keep it up. Okay, so 3 minutes, no expansion. Pull back with your Zerglings, keep droning. Remember, 45 supply is when you will be building units. So if you want to drop your Roach Horn or your Baneling Nest, whatever you'd normally drop against Protoss, up to you. You should always be dropping that around the same time, about now, no matter what's going on. And you want to drone up to 45 supply, and from there it's non-stop Overlords and fighting units. And all you want to do is glance at your Overlord every now and then and say, hey, does he have an expansion? No, he doesn't. Keep building fighting units because he's all-inning me. So make sure you're just massing units for now. It could just be Zerglings until your Roach Horn's done. Lots of Overlords, lots of fighting units. And you can do some follow-up scouting. That Overlord should be sacrificing through his main to try and get an idea of what units it is that he's going to come at you with. And just keep focusing on building lots of units, lots of Overlords, and you should be fine. This is it. Also, 4 minutes for safety spores. He's on one base. We're past 4 minutes now, so let's drop one spore in each base just to make sure we're safe. And you'll notice you've got a few too many drones in your main. So you've always got to remember to change that rally point earlier on. This is one habit we haven't shaken just yet. Should transfer about 5-6 drones from the main to the natural. Now, you should also have units on the map. Maybe a single Zergling outside is natural to see when he's coming out, what he's coming out with.
And should I be building an evolution chamber at this point?
Nope, just units. You could maybe drop a second gas. Sure. Lots of Overlords, lots of units. All you need is detection in case there's sneaky shit and a shitload of things that fight. Because he's on one base. And you can send a Zergling to outside his base, you know, a Zergling in the middle of the map. Remember, using the deselecting is only the best way to do that. And you see, oh! Generic gateway fighting units. What do? Keep doing what you've been doing for the last few minutes. Just keep building stuff. You know he's on one base. You know you have a bigger economy. All you need to do is hold this attack, and you've got this. He can't hear me right now. I didn't unmute my mic. All right, so you know he's coming. You know you just need to keep building units. That was just generic gateway units. It's all about this fight. If you can win this fight, you can win this game. He's not really watching the army right now. His own army's hotkeyed just now. He's properly hotkeyed it. Okay, that's something. So I told him to come with 10 to 12 gateway units. All right, you just shat on that push. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
You just dismantled that so hard because you kept droning nice and efficiently at the start. The moment you did the check for the one base all in, you reacted by massing units, getting a bit of a safety insurance with the spore crawlers in case there was something sneaky. You scouted. You could have had a bit more map control with single Zerglings out of the map. That would have been great to see him coming a bit earlier without, you know, having an Overlord in the middle. That would have been cool. But you built plenty of units. You had like double his army supply, and you just crushed it because you built units at the right time, and it was beautiful.
I did click around with the Zerglings, but I was not doing the command and deselecting properly, so I wound up pulling them all to the locations. Yeah.
Hey, at least you tried to follow the order there, and the thing is, like, that's pretty good. Like, GG. From here, obviously, you've just crushed an attack. You could afford to build drones, add more gases, tech up a bit, and then go back into unit production because you've just killed a big portion of his army really efficiently, right? This is where you can start taking a little healthy lead to a disgusting lead. Why? Because you're not even anymore. You're way ahead. So before you were even, so you were like, I'm going to have a bit more economy than you. And then you crush an army, you win a fight decisively. You say, well, now I'm ahead, which means I can afford to get more ahead. I could either hold down the unit key and just go try to kill you. I can tech up. I can add upgrades. You have all the options in the world. You can do anything you want from that point in the game. So, dude, this check, this kind of built-in, are you building a natural? No, you are not. I'm going to build units from 45 supply. This is going to be key for you. And you can apply this same thing if someone's on 2 base, right? If someone goes up to 2 bases, you build a few units around 4 or 5 minutes, you know, 45, 60 supply to be safe. Just a few units, right? Not like a massive amount. Maybe a few roaches, pack of Zerglings. Other than that, you're just droning. And then you'll say, ooh, he hasn't taken a third. I should always be looking for that from about 5 minutes onwards. And you say, I should only drone. How many drones on your third base? If you're both even, he doesn't have a third. How many drones can you get on your third off the top of your head?
Maybe about half of saturation, 8.
Beautiful.
4 to 8. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe a bit more than that. Maybe. Sure. That's fine. I'm sure you could get away with it a lot of the time. But I think as a general healthy market, you say, hey, I've got not only 8 drones, but another base. So if you win a fight, if you hang on against an attack, you can literally build a round of drones and instantly have a fully saturated third, right? Whereas if he pulls home and tries to macro up, he's got to like start a third base from scratch. So that's why having 8 drones on that third base is like actually a lot bigger than just having an 8 drone lead. It's massive. So, dude, that's the sort of thinking you want to be taking into all your replays. Not did he kill me with the cyclones, but how much economy did he kill me with? Where should I have stopped my economy? Once we get that to be automatic every time you open a replay, you're going to have such a clearer path of where you went right, where you went wrong in your games. So
Okay.
I hope this has been helpful for you. Do you feel like this has opened your eyes a little bit to maybe analyzing your losses a bit differently?
Yeah, actually. And I think, I mean, to be honest, like I work a lot, so it's not, I don't always get to practice everything as much as I would like, but I think I still need to work on some of the basic mechanics a bit to make sure I'm getting the map vision and the other stuff following the build order.
Yeah, maybe try and just do like the map control exercise for like 5 minutes some days, I think. Just keep doing that just to get that muscle memory down and keep it going.
I usually play 2 or 3 games on or against the AI before going into a ladder game, but then I find like often I get excited or something, and my mechanics or map vision are just off.
Yeah.
So I can do it against the AI. The AI is not the sharpest tool in the shed. Oh, but then putting it into the practice in live games is a little bit harder.
Exactly. There's always so many distractions, but your opponent has all of the same things going on as you. So remember, whenever the game's hard for you, it's hard for your opponent as well. I think you're progressing. I can see you moving forwards. Keep it up, man. Hit me up with how your progress is going. Try to squeeze in a bunch of games. Try to make sure you're watching a replay or two as you did before this session. But apply what we talked about today and how you're looking at those losses. And honestly, I can see you starting to really move forward as everything becomes clear in your mind and you start figuring out those rules of when to stop droning and all that sort of stuff. So awesome, man. I'll let you go, and I hope you have a great day.
Oh. All right. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Have a good night, brother.
Bye.
See you later.
too.
Enjoy your
Bye.
weekend. All right. There we go. Good coaching session there, guys.